Sundays is all about gay culture rewind on this channel. We've reached the end of the 1980s and soon we'll enter the 1990s. But before we get into that, I think it's important that we take a look back at some of the gayest moments from the 1980s, from 1980 to 1989. Not the gay-coded or queer-coded moments, but the actual true gay moments. Let's get into it. While many celebrities were still closeted in 1981 due to immense societal pressures, a few bold stars were starting to blend gender and queerness in mainstream music.
So you choose to get involved in it. You don't have to get involved in it.
You can't help getting involved in it.
You don't have to get involved in it.
If somebody picked on you, you're getting involved.
No, I don't fight.
Yeah.
You don't have to fight. If you're really into dressing up, then you wouldn't have to fight, would you? If you're really into it that much, you wouldn't care what other people thought.
Well,
We'll say somebody hit you.
Although Culture Club hasn't officially debuted yet, Boy George was making waves on the London club scene. With his flamboyant style, gender-fluid fashion and magnetic presence, he was already a queer icon in the making, soon to become one of the decade's most famous gay figures.
If you wanna funk, let me show you how.
Meanwhile, Sylvester, the high priest of disco, was still going strong. Known for his soaring falsetto voice and unapologetic gay image, Sylvester's music like Do You Wanna Funk, which was released just after 1981, was already dominating gay clubs. His 1981 performances were bold statements of queer joy in a changing world.
John Waters is the man responsible for making Divine a movie star.
And in the underground, artists like Divine, working closely with filmmaker John Waters, were showing that drag, camp and queerness weren't fringe, they were art.
I like to make people laugh at something that you would generally never laugh at in real life. Like there's a scene in Polyester where trick-or-treaters come to the door and the woman doesn't have any candy, so they kill her.
Kaijo Gugu released their debut album White Feathers in 1983, and its lead single Too Shy became the band's biggest single, eventually defining them as a one-hit wonder despite releasing 4 singles from that album before the lead singer, Lamal, departed from the band. He gifted the world the dreamy theme to the never-ending story, and with his platinum mullet and glam aesthetic, Lamal became an instant queer-coded royalty. He wasn't just a singing fantasy, he was the fantasy. Meanwhile, Hazel Dean was becoming a high-energy goddess, with hits like Searching, I Gotta Find a Man, which basically became a gay club anthem overnight. Her debut album, her sound, her look and her energy was all camp, with a capital C, and that's not technically a bad thing. And then of course there was Madonna, just 26 years old and already causing moral panic. She performed like a virgin at the first ever MTV VMAs, in a wedding dress of course. And somewhere 1,000 baby gays were born in that moment. She didn't just start a career, she started a movement. In 1985, Freddie Mercury released his first solo album, Mr. Bad Guy.
I'm Mark Goodman. We have some news for you tonight. After fronting Queen since the early 70s, vocalist Freddie Mercury will be releasing his first solo album, Mr. Bad Guy, at the beginning of May. Freddie told MTV why he thought that now was the time to finally go out on his own.
The album didn't break sales records, but it was unapologetically Freddie, campy, theatrical, and completely fabulous. He later said that he made the album for gay clubs, and honestly, I think mission was accomplished. In 1986, a pop duo called Erasure popped into the scene with a debut album Wonderland, and leading the charge was Andy Bell, an openly gay, gloriously flamboyant singer who was rocking more eyeliner than Boy George at a glam rock reunion.
Number 16, the first time on Top of the Pops, Andy Bell, Vince Clarke, known as Erasure, and this is Sometime.
Erasure didn't just make bangers, they were unapologetically queer, setting a standard for music that felt like a neon-lit hug from your inner fabulousness.
Now the big news, Wham has split up. Now, what's it all about?
Well, basically, I suppose the big news is that it's not really quite time for the big news. What actually happened was about 7 months ago, Andrew and I decided that we thought what we wanted to achieve 4 years ago when we formed the band had been just about achieved, and that whatever we do from now on will be a matter of maintaining and making sure that people don't get a chance to say we're finished, and we thought that wasn't really the way we wanted it to carry on.
Before TikTok thirst traps, our gay icons had to climb their way up the pop culture mountain one disco beat at a time. When Wham announced their split in 1986, Straight girls cried, and gay boys, well, we secretly celebrated, because we knew George Michael was about to step into his final form.
I should go back to being lonely and confused.
That year, he dropped the single A Different Corner, and let's be real, it was giving existential heartbreak with hair volume for days. Nobody knew that he was gay at the time, but our gaydars were already screaming like a tornado warning. George wasn't just becoming a gay icon, he was about to redefine what it meant to be one. Then there was the Pet Shop Boys, dropping their debut album Please in 1986, with hits like West End Girls. Neil Tennant wasn't out yet, but something about those synth beats and poetic lyrics about alienation and longing somehow hit us differently. Pet Shop Boys mastered the art of emotional detachment, but also kind of made it gay. It was moody, it was queer-coded, and it was everything to a gay boy in 1986.
Ladies and gentlemen, making her network television debut, please welcome Melissa Etheridge.
Switching gears from the pop princess to rock rebel, Melissa Etheridge stomped onto the scene with a debut album, which was released in May 1988. With gritty guitar riffs and confessional lyrics like Bring Me Some Water, she spoke to everyone who's ever felt like an outsider. Most listeners didn't know that she was part of the LGBTQ+ community when she made her debut, but we the community knew. Etheridge would eventually come out publicly as a lesbian in January 1993 at the Triangle Ball, a homosexual-themed celebration of President Bill Clinton's first inauguration.
Oh, and it's sugar cane time, and around about June.
And over in Canada, Katie Lang released Shadowland in 1988. With her seamless blend of country and torch ballads, plus that signature androgynous glam, she challenged both musical and gender norms. Katie Lang's velvet vocals and style-defining presence cemented her as a trailblazer. She was basically another if you know queer artist, but only publicly came out as a lesbian in June of 1992 during an interview with the LGBTQ magazine, The Advocate. You remember the voice, obviously. Frankie Goes to Hollywood left an echo in the 1980s, and in 1989, lead singer Holly Johnson stepped out with his own solo work. His lead single, Love Train, was released early in the year and set the tone, bold, melodic and defiantly pop. It was the sound of a gay artist who had survived tabloid years and wanted to make music that celebrated life rather than apologizing for it.
You're a homo?
Well,
The reason I ask is I've never seen one before.
Soap, the satirical sitcom starring Billy Crystal as Jody Dallas, continued into its 4th season. Jody was one of the first openly gay characters on American TV, and while the show walked a tightrope between progress and problematic tropes, it remains an important piece of queer TV history.
I mean, don't be ashamed. Whatever you do, I mean, stand up. Come out of the toilet, as the phrase has it. And stand up and say, I am tempted to be a homosexual.
Across the pond, British TV began testing the waters with more camp characters and drag in comedy, with shows like Not the 9 O'Clock News, poking fun at norms while sneaking in queer sensibility. 1982 was also a pivotal year for gay representation on TV, even if much of it was still coded or controversial. The most iconic moment, hands down, was Stephen Carrington's coming out scene on Dynasty.
I'm a homosexual, Dad. I'm gay.
In Season 1, Episode 18, Stephen finally declares, "I'm gay and I'm not ashamed," in a dramatic confrontation with his family. It was one of the first times a major network show allowed a character to say those words aloud. And for millions of viewers, it was a turning point. I think everyone who watched TV back in 1982 can still vividly remember the day Stephen Carrington gave that emotional monologue about refusing to bow down to conformity and his father's expectations.
I tried to live a lie. To please you. Not anymore.
Watch The Golden Girls weekdays at 5:30 on News Channel 7 WKBW-TV.
In 1985, TV got a little bit gayer and a whole lot more fabulous, with the debut of one of the most beloved queer-adjacent shows of all time, The Golden Girls. When Dorothy, Blanche, Rose and Sophia first shuffled into our lives in that cozy Miami kitchen, nobody could have predicted that they become gay icons for the ages.
What was your first impression of me? I thought you wore too much makeup and were a slut.
With their biting wit, chosen family vibes, and a surprising amount of pro-LGBTQ+ storylines for the time, The Golden Girls wasn't just a sitcom, it was queer comfort food.
AIDS is not a bad person's disease, Rose. It is not God punishing people for their sins. You're right, Blanche. Well, you're damn straight I'm right.
The show also tackled topics like AIDS, drag, and same-sex marriage decades before other shows dared to even speak about it. And let's be honest, the gays love a sharp-tongued older woman in shoulder pads.
Hi, Blanche. Eat dirt and die, trash.
While TV wasn't exactly bursting without gay characters in 1987, we did get two rare gems that dared to go there, even if the intentions weren't to celebrate gay identities.
I have an uncle who's gay. What? He's just 23 now, so what are you telling me for? So I'm old enough to remember how it was for him when he first told someone.
The CBA School Break special gave us What If I'm Gay, which aired in the US and tackled teenage sexuality without turning it into total tragedy. It was earnest, awkward, and groundbreaking. For many closeted teens, it was the first time they heard the word gay uttered on daytime TV without a laugh track.
Now on BBC Two, the first part of the play Two of Us.
Over in the UK, we had Two of Us, a BBC film that aired as part of a youth series. It followed two teenage boys, one closeted, one out, navigating love and self-acceptance. It was tender, brave, and it was banned from daytime repeat broadcasts for being too gay for tea time, which was exactly why it was iconic.
Your mother found them.
1988 was basically during the height of the AIDS pandemic, and very few positive depictions of gay men existed on TV. Gay men were still being portrayed as promiscuous, and HIV/AIDS was still heavily stigmatized. Episode 3 of NBC's Midnight Caller caused quite an outrage when it was aired. The episode followed Jack Killian, who sets out to find the man who infected his ex-girlfriend with AIDS. What made this so controversial was that the show's antagonist was a bisexual man deliberately infecting people with HIV. Activists for HIV/AIDS awareness and LGBTQ rights cited concerns over the negative portrayal of bisexual and HIV-positive people and the fears that the show would make people with AIDS the targets of violence. In 1989, Channel 4 in the UK launched Out on Tuesdays, which was later shortened to just Out, a magazine-style TV series aimed directly at lesbian and gay audiences in the UK. It was one of the first nationally networked television series, and it marked a new, visible place for conversations about community, culture, and politics on mainstream TV.
Not quite right on me, is it? I think when I take up the cloth, it'll be covered in sequins.
The show aired until 1994 and is considered a landmark in LGBTQ+ representation on TV.
We need to remember that the BBC to decide to put two gay men, non-stereotypical, ordinary gay men, into the most popular show on television, it was pretty courageous.
EastEnders introduced Colin Russell, a character whose presence pushed British TV into new territory. Colin's relationships brought same-sex relationships into countless homes. One notable broadcast moment was a same-sex kiss which made headlines and provoked a storm of commentary in the press, the kind of high-profile reaction that showed how visibility could also trigger national debate. Importantly, Colin's on-screen relationship with Barry Clark also helped normalize gay presence on family soaps, and although we didn't know it at the time, these were quiet revolutions showed in living rooms across the UK. When the film Cruising hit theaters in 1980, gay activists were furious. The film starred Al Pacino as a cop who goes undercover in New York's leather bar scene to catch a killer. Sounds spicy? It was, but it also painted gay men as hypersexual and dangerous, at a time when the gay community was already fighting for basic rights.
The gay community has protested, wanting no showing at all of that film. The film's distributors have other ideas.
Protests erupted outside theaters. Queer groups like the Gay Liberation Front called it homophobic, but over time, Cruising became a cult classic, some argue even a misunderstood masterpiece. Regardless, it put queer subculture in the mainstream like never before. It shocked and scandalized, but it couldn't be ignored. The 1980s wasn't a great time for LGBTQ-themed movies, as audiences weren't as accepting as they are today. so gay-themed movies were extremely rare and often painted LGBTQ people as something to be feared, something to be cautious of. And because of this, we didn't get a lot of movies that we could relate to.
By the way, my friend, why were you not at my party tonight?
Then there's Zorro the Gay Blade, a parody film starring George Hamilton in dual roles, one as the classic Zorro and the other as his flamboyantly gay twin brother, who takes over the mask while dressed in color-coordinated pastel outfits. The film is outrageous, knowingly campy, and plays into every gay swashbuckling fantasy, making it a guilty pleasure and a cult classic for many queer viewers. While it's a product of its time with some stereotypes, it also gives Bunny a surprising amount of charm, confidence, and power.
Wait, don't tell me. He's not at home, not back from lunch yet, and not at the clinic. Third time this week.
The daring drama Making Love, starring Harry Hamlin and Michael Ontkean, told the story of a married man who comes to terms with his attraction to another man. It was one of the first mainstream Hollywood films to portray a gay love story with empathy and realism. While critics were divided and box office numbers were modest, Making Love was a landmark in LGBTQ storytelling, especially for closeted viewers who had never seen their experiences reflected on screen. The Times of Harvey Milk was a groundbreaking documentary that chronicled the life, career, and assassination of America's first openly gay elected official. The documentary didn't just memorialize Milk, it captured the heartbreak and the political urgency of the moment.
What the gay rights ordinance in San Francisco, the main focus is to prevent the people who are already employed, who are gay, who, if they want to come out and break down the stereotypes, prevents them from being fired.
It showcased the grieving community, a movement on the rise, and most importantly, a gay man's legacy being taken seriously by mainstream cinema. No wonder it won the Oscar for the Best Documentary Feature.
And the winner is The Times of Harvey Milk, Robert Epstein, and Richard Producer.
The fantastic effort that went on for a lot of the gay freedoms we have, and a lot of it did get going before Stonewall.
Before Stonewall was another pivotal documentary that took on a monumental task, telling the story of queer life in America before the 1969 Stonewall riots. Through interviews, archive footage, and rarely seen photographs, it painted a fuller picture of LGBTQ+ history, reminding viewers that queer people had always been there, even if they were forced to live in the shadows. For many in the community, it was the first time they'd seen their lives contextualized and respected on screen.
I love him.
Oh, come on, Guy.
Look, I'm not going to pretend anymore. I'm sick of pretending.
Set in 1930s England, Another Country follows a young closeted student played by Rupert Everett, loosely based on real-life spy Guy Burgess.
I've always liked the idea of my name going down in history.
The story explores the link between repressed homosexuality and political rebellion, all wrapped up in elite boarding school aesthetics and brooding homoerotic subtext. It's equally part tragic, romantic, and very, very British.
Hey, man. What's wrong with you, dude?
A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, now affectionately known as the gayest horror movie ever made, also released in 1985. From the locker room scenes to the leather bar and the closeted lead character, this movie wasn't just subtext, it was full text in a mesh tank top, even though audiences didn't quite want to admit it yet. Star Mark Patton would later come out and speak openly about the pressures he faced, making the film even more iconic in hindsight.
Richly entertaining. My Beautiful Laundrette is a work of substance. My Beautiful Laundrette.
My Beautiful Laundrette was a tender, bold British film about an interracial gay romance between a Pakistani man and a white working-class punk, played by a young and extremely handsome Daniel Day-Lewis. It was unapologetically gay and politically charged, something which was almost unheard of in mainstream at the time.
Settle down on a farm.
You last about 10 seconds on a farm.
Now let's talk about a film that did what needed to be done in 1986, Parting Glances. This indie gem, written and directed by Bill Sherwood, wasn't just another AIDS tragedy movie. It was something rare for its time. It was a film about gay life that was actually lived in, witty, and warm. Set over the course of 24 hours in New York City, it follows a young couple, Robert and Michael, as Robert prepares to leave for a work assignment overseas. But the emotional core of the story lies with Michael's friendship with Nick, his ex-boyfriend who's living with AIDS. Nick was played by a young Steve Buscemi in what's arguably one of his most quietly powerful roles. Based on the E.M. Foster novel, this was the gay period romance everyone was talking about back in 1987. It was one of the few films to come out of the 80s not to hide the sexuality of the characters but fully embrace it. Even in a time when being gay was still considered taboo, the film received an abundance of praise, as well as awards at the Venice Film Festival, including Best Actor for James Wolby and Hugh Grant. More than 3 decades later, the film is still considered a milestone in gay representation, both for the quality of the film and the audacity with which it depicted a gay love story at the height of the 1980s AIDS crisis. This big screen adaptation of the play of the same name follows Arnold Beckhoff, a New York drag performer, as he juggles love, family and parenthood in the 1970s. After a series of heartbreaks, Arnold finds himself in a committed relationship with Ellen, portrayed by Matthew Broderick, and even pursues adoption, only to face prejudice from society and his own mother. The Torch Song trilogy was revolutionary for presenting a gay protagonist whose struggle centered on the universal themes of acceptance and belonging, rather than solely his sexuality.
This movie is a tremendous emotional experience. It's one of the year's best films, and I give it 4 stars. I'm Roger Ebert.
I suggest, while we're waiting, that you have a bath. It'll help to relax you.
This Australian drama exposes a secret society of powerful gay men. When a young man, portrayed by Mark Lee, is recruited as a protege and lover of an influential senator, he quickly learns the perks and perils of his privilege. The film's unflinching look at age-disparate relationships, political corruption and secrecy offered one of the era's most morally complex queer narratives.
When you feel ready, you must come to me.
The film received mostly mixed to negative reviews upon its release, with critics calling it a perverted film. Modern audiences agree with the film's criticisms, and it currently holds an 11% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Adrian LeDuc is about to make an arrangement.
I was inquiring about the apartment next door.
An arrangement with a man he will never forget.
This British-Argentine psychological thriller stars Colin Firth as a lonely theater owner in 1980s Buenos Aires. When he takes in the charming American Jack Carney, portrayed by Hart Bochner, Adrian soon suspects his new roommate is tied to a string of political assassinations. Though not explicitly a gay film, its undercurrents of repressed desire and queer-coded tension between the two leads added an unsettling layer of homoeroticism that queer audiences still debate today. Critics were sharply divided on the film. Most of the reviews were negative, but modern audiences have taken a second look at the film through a newer lens, and the film currently holds a 74% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right? Come stay here. We have no secrets from each other. We live together. We don't need to be ashamed of it. To no one. Is that clear?
One of the most remarkable film moments of 1989 was coming out. The film premiered in East Berlin on November 9, 1989, the very night the Berlin Wall was opened. It was the only feature made by East Germany's stage studio that directly addressed homosexuality, and the timing of its premiere, literally the night the wall fell, gave it extraordinary historical resonance. Coming Out remains a touchstone for queer cinema of that era.
No problem, Gino. This guy blows dead dogs. Just lay it in there.
Eat and die, Ricky!
And finally, Sleepaway Camp. It may have seemed like just another low-budget slasher, but it ended with one of the most shocking and heavily analyzed LGBTQ plot twists in horror history.
Sleepaway Camp.
The film's controversial ending sparked decades of discussion about gender identity, representation and trauma. Love it or hate it, Sleepaway Camp remains one of the most important queer-coded horror films ever made.
Someone is waiting for you.
Acquired immune deficiency syndrome, or AIDS, started as an exclusively gay disease. This depression of the immune system can lead to a rare form of cancer.
But as we all know, 1981 wasn't just pop, fashion and fun. It was also the year a mysterious illness began spreading in the gay community. On June 5, 1981, the CDC published a report about 5 gay men in Los Angeles diagnosed with a rare form of pneumonia, later identified as the first documentation of what would become the HIV/AIDS crisis. Though many in the public didn't yet understand the full scale of what was coming, the LGBTQ community, especially in New York, LA and San Francisco, began to organize, share information and care for one another in ways that government refused to. This movement marked a profound turning point, one that would define the decade and the fight for gay rights for years to come.
But the nature of his illness has become clouded in mystery and confusion.
In 1985, Rock Hudson publicly came out and disclosed that he had AIDS, becoming the first major Hollywood figure to do so.
Good evening, I'm Roger Grimsby. Here now the news. Actor Rock Hudson dead, his year-long battle with AIDS at an end. He was 59.
His death later that year forced a global conversation about AIDS and gay visibility. In 1985, Dire Straits released one of their biggest songs, Money for Nothing, and its catchy riff also came with a big problem. The lyrics included the slur "f***" repeated multiple times in the song. While the band claimed it was meant to mock homophobic attitudes, many in the LGBTQ+ community didn't see the irony, especially at a time when violence and discrimination against LGBTQ+ people was very real. The song would go on to top the charts and still get radio airplay, sparking decades of debate over context, satire, and whether problematic lyrics should get a pass. It was a reminder that queer visibility still had limits back in 1985.
The winner is William Hurt.
In 1986, William Hurt won the Academy Award for Kiss of the Spider-Woman, playing a gay man imprisoned in Brazil. Obviously it was problematic that a straight guy got the Oscar for it, which is kind of classic Hollywood, but it was still groundbreaking. It proved that gay characters could lead serious films and win serious awards. Even though we were taking baby steps in gay representation, it had a giant impact, especially in 1986.
In the springboard preliminaries, Greg Louganis met disaster.
At the Summer Olympics in Seoul, Greg Louganis slammed his head on the springboard during the prelims. Surprisingly, he stands up, shakes it off and nails the dive. And then he goes on to win gold. Unfortunately, 1988 was also the year that we lost disco legend Sylvester, who passed away from AIDS-related complications at the age of 40. This loss hit the community hard, but his legacy still lights up every Pride parade even today.
The Washington Times reported today that unidentified White House aides in the Carter, Reagan, and Bush administrations now are being investigated for using the services of a callboy ring.
1989 was also the year of a Washington, D.C. scandal involving alleged homosexual escorts or prostitution rings, which led to media exposés and investigations that touched on politics, ethics, and privacy. Figures like lobbyist Craig J. Spence became associated with the press coverage. These stories often fed into sensational headlines about sexuality and power, and showed how queer-related scandals could be used to shock or distract from other political issues.
Sources confirmed a Washington Times report today that D.C. police and the Internal Revenue Service are investigating a male prostitution ring whose clients may have included people connected to the Bush and Reagan administrations.
So next week we are entering the 90s. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. It really helps with the algorithm, even though it seems like something small. It's also one of the best ways to support creators on YouTube. Another way that you can support me is to join as a channel member, or if you want, you can head over to my Patreon. I have a Patreon page. I know I haven't been active on it in a while. It's with everything that's going on the last couple of months, but I'm back on Patreon and I will be posting exclusive content monthly from this month onwards. Thank you very much and I'll see you in the next video.